and welcome to the OxygenAddict Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors PrecisionHydration.com. You can get electrolytes in different strengths to match how you sweat with 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. We're also brought to you by Thriver.co, the simple finger prick blood test you can do at home to track hormone, vitamin and mineral levels in your body. 10% off all subscriptions with the code OxygenAddict10. All right, everyone, this week I'm going to bring you an interview with none other than Richard Murray. Now, a lot of you are going to need no introduction to Richard. He is obviously one of the biggest names on the world circuit, on the WTS and Olympic circuit. He has previously won the grand final of the WTS in Chicago. He's placed third in the WTS grand final on the Gold Coast. He's a Commonwealth silver medalist in the mixed relay, bronze medalist in the men's triathlon, and he finished fourth at the 2016 games, Olympic Games out in Rio. So I've wanted to get Richard on the show for a full-length interview for a long time. I managed to meet him out at Super League Tri Malta last year and immediately got on with him really well. He's a really nice, solid guy. And so I've been trying to line this interview up for ages, so it's great to have him on. We talk about all manner of things, most notably of which, those of you who follow him on Strava and who follow him on Instagram might have seen, he recently ran 13:37 for 5K on the road on his own, not in an organised event, just him running with his wife's dad on a bike in front of him filming. And then surprisingly was greeted with an awful lot of hassle on both Twitter and Instagram from pure runners in South Africa, casting doubts over his performance, essentially. So he talks a lot about that and about his disappointment around how that record was received and how, well, it wasn't actually an official South African record, but it at the time would have broken the official 5K men's road race record in South Africa. So the guy's a seriously talented athlete, both in terms of swimming, biking and running, but in running in particular, that puts him right up there with the all-time runners in South Africa. So we talk a lot about that. We talk about a lot about his hopes for the Olympics, when that will hopefully happen next year, and his rivals and who he sort of aims to beat and race next year. So yeah, we've got all that to look forward to coming up. Before we get into that though, we've got bits of news and results coming your way, sponsored by Precision Hydration. How are you doing with the heat at the moment in the country, UK listeners? It's fantastic. Just before we went on air interviewing Richard Murray, he was hassling me and going, I can see sunshine out the window there. I didn't think it was ever sunny in the UK. It is baking hot today. And if you're outside riding in the heat or running in the heat, you'll have found, like I have done over the past few days, that you get extremely hot and dehydrated. I've forgotten what it felt like to run in the heat and to get back with that raging thirst of, I don't know about you, I don't take a drink with me if I'm going out for a 30-minute run. And I got back and I was desperately thirsty. So got the old Precision Hydration 1500 mix out, and that sorted me right out. So you need to be taking care of your electrolytes replacement when you're training in the heat, or even if you're training indoors on the treadmill or certainly the turbo trainer, even with fans blowing over you, which you should certainly have, by the way. I've had lots of emails this week from people saying, have you got any tips about training on the turbo? It's so uncomfortable. And that is the biggest one right there. Have a fan blowing over you because it makes it so much more comfortable. Even with that, you need to take care of your electrolytes though. So get over to Precision Hydration, take their online sweat test. It'll give you a really good lead as to whether you're a particularly heavy or particularly salty sweater. And if you are, you need the full strength 1500 milligram Precision Hydration electrolyte replacement sachets that I take. But they've also got sachets in different strengths to match everybody. So find out what you are and take it to replace what you've lost during your workouts. That'll mean you perform to your best, and it'll also mean you avoid getting those horrendous cramps in the middle of the night or even during sessions. So I talked about this before. If I don't take this stuff, I get cramped during the session itself, let alone afterwards. So check it out. 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. All right, so news and results and stuff that have been going on this week. A bunch of my guys raced the Ironman Vr8 race this week and then had an awful lot of fun doing it. Some of them raced in the Challenger category. Some of them raced in the whatever the other category is called. There's two versions now. There's one where it's like official racing where you have to do it on Ruvi, and there's one where you can just do it on Zwift or wherever you take your fancy. And The more serious athletes who are looking for race results did it on the Ruvi version, and people got very good reviews of that. I've not used it myself personally, but the guys I coach who used it said they really enjoyed riding and racing, and some of the times our athletes put up were actually right up there with some of the pro performances as well. So it's a really good way to go and measure yourself on a kind of like for like. You're out there on the same course with the same algorithms, working out your same sort of time. Obviously, you're not directly compared with the pros, but it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of competition to see how you would stack up against the pro performances. So, yeah, get on that and have a go on the old Ironman Vr8 Race. It was an Olympic distance this weekend just gone. I believe it's going to be a sprint distance race coming up this weekend. You'll have to check their schedule for that. They alternate between sprint, Olympic and half iron distance. So check those out. But they're really good fun if you fancy giving yourself a blast out. Came highly recommended by our athletes. So go and give that a go. I was planning on having a go, but I've been feeling really tired over the weekend. I didn't feel right at all in our 10-mile time trial on Thursday, and so I've dialed it right back for a few days, and I'm starting to feel back to normal again. But I'm wondering whether this is a pattern that people who've had the virus have experienced. I've been reading a few things about people who feel as though, I think relapse is the wrong word. It's too strong a word, but definitely like ups and downs in your energy. And I had a day last Thursday, I think it was, or maybe it was last Friday, where I'd just been out for a run in the morning for 30 minutes and nothing particularly hard, but maybe picked it up a little bit more than the standard e-pace run. And I was completely wasted in the afternoon. I had to go to bed for an hour and have a sleep. And I'm putting this down to, it just felt like I felt 3 or 4 weeks ago when I was under the weather with this virus. So I've actually followed my own advice, backed the training right off, haven't done anything hard, done a couple of really light jogs, and I'm starting to feel much more normal and better again. So I guess that's just to say, if this sounds like you and what you've gone through, if you've been ill and you've recovered, it seems to go on a roller coaster that, lasts for 8 to 12 weeks maybe. So don't be surprised if you have these dips in energy, because it's certainly what I've experienced, and it's what a lot of other people have experienced as well. And on that note, actually, I'll mention this. This came through to my email box, and I had no prior warning of this, despite these guys being show sponsors. Thriver.co sent an email out on either Friday or Saturday to say that they are now doing coronavirus antibody tests. They're doing them at cost, so you do have to pay for it. It's not like the NHS ones. But if you're like me, you're not a key worker and you just want to know what the state of play is with your body, they're now selling coronavirus antibody tests. So it's their standard fingerprint blood test. Send it to you through the post. You do it at home and you post it back, and you get the results back within a couple of days. Mine's ordered and it hasn't arrived today, so hopefully it'll be here in the next day or two. Like I said, I only ordered it on Saturday, so I wouldn't be expecting it before tomorrow at the earliest anyway. But the 59 quid to have them done, excuse me, it is a lot of money, but for my own peace of mind, I've decided I want to have that done. So, and I'll be clear here, we're not on any kind of affiliate deal, or there's nothing in it for me to promote having this done. But if you're an athlete who suspected they were sick, I think it's going to bring me peace of mind to know whether I've had coronavirus or not. And then I can sort of put a marker down in the sand, really. I'll be honest, if it turns out I haven't had it and I've got no antibodies, I'm going to feel pretty gutted, because I'll have been sick with something, but it wasn't that. But anyway, these guys, Thriver, are now doing a coronavirus at-home test you can get yourself. And if you want to check yourself out, you can do that. Just go to thriver.co and you can just follow the links through there. It's right there on their main homepage. And while you're there, you can have any of your other levels tested as well. So you can get 10% off all of their subscriptions with the code OxygenAddict10 to start with, but you can have your stuff for athletes, like your iron level, your testosterone levels, your hematocrit, liver function, vitamin B9, B12, vitamin D, or things like thyroid function, diabetes, cholesterol, omega-3 and omega-6. You can have all of those tested as well at the same time. And I think it's a good time to just, we're all taking a step back from racing, maybe focus on your health a bit more, see what's going on, see if there's anything missing from your diet, make those changes now. And who knows, you maybe get to come back to racing with a much stronger, healthier body from a really solid foundation of health. So yeah, go and check that out over at thriver.co. Other things I've noticed this week, this came up on DC Rainmaker's site, but I also noticed it on Zwift the other day. Now, I haven't personally had a go at this yet, but if you were one of the early adopters to Zwift, one of the beta testers, and you'll know if you are because you've been given the option to join in-game, it's to join something called Club Jarvis. You've got the option to now beta test their new in-game boost function. So that basically means they're giving you the equivalent of a motor in your bike, but that motor comes at a cost. There are 3 different options. You can charge your motor up to give you like 500 watts for 15 seconds, or you can have it for 250 watts for 25 seconds, or you can have it for 50 watts for 30 seconds. And you can use that motor different numbers of times. But you charge that motor up by effectively taking wattage of you as you're riding. So say you're rolling along with a pack, rolling 250 watts. If you want to charge your motor up, it's going to cost you 150 of those. So you have to do it as you're either going down a hill or well in the middle of the pack to draft to charge that up. And the idea is it's like a proper power up that you can use later on in the race. You can use it on a hill, you can use it in a sprint finish. And it looks like it's going to add a really interesting extra gamification element to it, because you're not just getting given these things randomly, you are having to earn them by costing you watts earlier in the race. So yeah, if you're an early adopter, get over there and check that out. Good stuff. Other things I've noticed this week, if you're looking for a bit of triathlon content, go over and check out the PTO Hub. They've got interviews this week with Chelsea Sodaro, Ben Hoffman, and Craig Alexander. The Craig Alexander one in particular I really enjoyed. It's really interesting hearing his thoughts, what's going on with training and racing at the moment. So Crowie, obviously, ex-winner of Kona, and well worth your time listening to what he's got to say, I think. So yeah, the PTO Hub are continuing to put up some really great content. So get over there and check out the little videos. They're all short. They're all sort of between 7 and 12 minutes long. So they're good things to watch when you're getting yourself warmed up on Zwift and ready for a big effort. Okie dokes. Right, Coach's Couch this week. I want to talk through with you about your training and how we can sort of adapt your training in this time of year. So we're talking late May, early June, going into summertime here in the UK and across Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. So what can you do to increase your fitness now so it's going to affect your summer riding, running, swimming positively, regardless of whether or not races happen later in the year? So at the moment, I think a lot of us are training in the hope that there are going to be races in September, October time. But if there are not, and I know a lot of us struggle with the idea of not having a race later on, but we need to then make it a lot more process-based, I think. And it's worth remembering, if you get really fit this summer, even if you don't get to race and see the results of it this summer, you will get to race at some point in the future. And that fitness that you build this summer is going to carry on with you, carry over through the winter. It'll form a great base for your winter training, and it'll also carry over into next season as well. And I think it's difficult and challenging at times to sit here and think, there's nothing to really train for. What am I doing these hard intervals for? There's nothing on the horizon that I'm going to get payback with it. But I'm going to give you a couple of examples. We've had a load of our team members go outside to ride for the first time often in 4, 6, 8 weeks. They've done a lot of work on the trainer, not necessarily at high intensity, but they've done a lot of work on the trainer. They've been focused on doing either big gear intervals or 80% FTP, 90% FTP, the microburst sessions that we've done. And then just anecdotally, but it's still, I think anecdotes are important at the moment. 6 or 7 of my guys came back from rides this weekend and said, first long ride out this weekend, I did 3 hours, I did 3.5 hours, and I felt really strong. I felt really confident. You know, my handling was a bit jippy and going around corners the first time was a bit of a wobble, but I felt really strong riding along. I felt strong on the hills. I felt powerful. And that's a direct result of the work that they've done over the last 8 to 12 weeks indoors on the bike. And it shows you that the thing I've often said really carries over. A lot of these athletes haven't trained for maybe more than often an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the longest on the indoor rides. And it's translated into being 3.5 hour rides at the weekend with absolutely no problems. And so almost universally, the comments coming back have been, I'm really surprised I felt so good. I was expecting to fall apart after an hour and a half, and it didn't happen. And so that's something there to kind of give you a bit of confidence in yourself. If you're managing to keep rolling 2 or 3 indoor rides of an hour with maybe one of an hour and a half at the weekends, a lot of comments come back and say, I was just hoping that I wouldn't fall apart and get destroyed, but actually I felt good. You can definitely find that you've improved your fitness, not just maintained your fitness. You can improve it with some focused work on the indoors. We had one of our guys do an impromptu FTP test and had raised it from 320 to 330 watts. And his comments were the same. He said, I was hoping that at best I would be sort of 5% lower than I had been before. And I was really just clinging on to the idea of, could I possibly maintain 90 to 95% of my old fitness? It's a real surprise to see that my fitness has moved on. So it's not necessarily the training that you feel you had to have done that makes you stronger and fitter. There's a lot of people finding that they are still getting fitter, and it's just the process of keeping training consistently that's going to do that for you. Okay, so keep the faith. Get yourself out on those rides. It's a great time now. The sun's shining and the weather's good to get out for some enjoyable outdoor rides. Don't worry too much about power and heart rate. Just get out and enjoy being in the outdoors. If you get the chance, and certainly in England, you can now do open water swims. If you can safely do them, get out and just enjoy an open water swim. I saw a comment from Sophie Caldwell, who'd got in, she's one of the best swimmers in the ITU circuit and certainly in Super League. And she said, my shoulders were just destroyed after 30 minutes and my form felt horrible, but it was so good to get back in the water. So if you get the chance, just go back in for fun. It doesn't need to be about training. It needs to be about fun and enjoyment again. Okay, so get out there and do something fun this week. If you fancy joining us on our Team Oxygen Addict Zwift ride, Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. UK time, you'll find it in the Zwift official events. It's titled the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast Power Hour. It's workouts aimed at raising your FTP. At the moment, they're sort of 90% of FTP workouts with some micro bursts in there as well. And even though they look on paper like they should be fairly manageable, these sessions are really raising people's eyebrows. They're really hard to crank out these microburst efforts at the end of the sweet spot efforts. So yeah, come along and give them a go. We had over 115 people, I think, last week again. So come along and join us. Having a bunch on the screen certainly makes the training time go by faster. And just one shout out for the team. If you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in getting structure to training at the moment, and not everybody is, but if you're interested in getting some structure around and the things I've been saying have resonated with you, we've got an offer on at the moment that if you join Team Oxygen Addict anytime in May, we're going to extend your membership, your annual membership, all the way to the end of September for no extra price. So basically you're going to get this entire summer and then an entire year from the end of September through to the end of September 2021 as well, all for an all-inclusive price of one annual membership. So whether or not racing happens this year, you're going to get a massive head start on your training, and that'll be great for your fitness this summer. It'll be great for your fitness in the autumn if any races happen. But even if it don't, it just means you're going to feel really good and strong when you're out there on the bike, like our team members have done. If you want to talk through that, there's a link in the show notes. You can find out whether you'd be a good fit for coaching with me. Set up a phone or a Skype call. Just click that link in the show notes and it goes through to bookings on my calendar automatically. All right, guys. This is going to be this week's interview of the week with Richard Murray. Richard Murray, welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join us. How are things with you today, mate?
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good. Quite relaxed Monday. We've got an easy day on Monday, so it's always my relaxed day. But yeah, it's pretty good. Not going too bad. Kind of just dealing with the day to day during the corona pandemic as everyone is going through.
Well, the first thing I want to ask you is to say congratulations. I know you and Rachel got married just probably about 6 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got married. It was about 2 months, almost exactly 2 months ago. So yeah, we're happily married. We didn't manage to get a hell of a lot of people coming to our wedding, which was quite low key. But we're gonna have another wedding at the end of the year with our South African with the rest of my family. So my family actually couldn't come over because the travel ban and those types of things literally happened like the week leading up type of thing. So they couldn't really get out type of thing as well. And well, they wouldn't be able to get back in. And so it was a bit of a nightmare really. But yeah, so luckily we're having a second wedding at the end of the year in South Africa. If things don't continue to snowball, hopefully, they kind of clear out and we can actually have that as well. But apart from that, it was a wonderful day.
So are you in the Netherlands at the moment? Is that where you guys are?
Yeah, we're in the Netherlands. Yeah, we generally spend the summer here in the Netherlands and then the summer in South Africa. So we kind of flock with the season a little bit.
Very nice. Well, let's kick off by starting about talking about the pandemic and how that's affected you as a pro triathlete, because obviously, there's the way it affects you in terms of training and racing, but there's also the way it affects you in terms of you've got married and your family weren't able to travel over and come for it. So first up, let's start by asking about how has that affected you on a sort of day-to-day basis with focus for your training and looking ahead, not really being sure what events are going to happen and when they're going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's the one difficult thing, I suppose, not just from athlete side, but from, a general, human being side, and not having much direction. I think triathletes are very goal orientated and very focused on goals, and now they aren't any. So now we've kind of gone from being professional triathletes to just being an athlete, if you could call it that. And also to do with, we're also become marketers now as well. So obviously professional athletes, you need to obviously be good at marketing to a degree as well, to have sponsors and to have people to pay for things, and, to be able to actually stay afloat as a professional. And so not having a goal has been quite difficult. I think, the mind tends to, is that you're training because of a goal. So now you don't have any reason or any purpose per se. So that's quite difficult. But I've kind of tried to put my focus on other things. I've always just enjoyed training. So luckily from my side, being outdoors and stuff, I enjoy doing that. So that's great. But when we really have to come to do the really hard sessions, obviously then I'm doing those hard sessions for a reason. So we've kind of scaled those back a little bit. We're not doing any massive training sessions, really. We're just doing general mileage. And we've kind of gone back to the training we would do in November, December, January type side. We've kind of gone back to that type of training, just in lieu of not knowing, where the horizon is currently.
Well, where is the horizon for you at the moment as things stand? Have you guys as pros got any idea? I know things are kind of getting cancelled on a sequential, almost like 2 months in advance basis. Have you got anything that's on the calendar at the moment that you're half aiming at, or is it just a case of you just have to kind of wait and see and keep yourself in maintenance mode?
I think it depends on your personality, what type of outlook you look into. But from my side, there's been a lot of setbacks already as it is. And I think if you continue believing on what's going to be a new event announced or this event's announced, and you're not really sure if that's going to partake or it's actually going to happen or not. And so I try not to trust too much in those things and more trust in the process and trust in just training and going on the feeling and speaking with a coach and saying, what should we do this week and what should we do next week? And more looking kind of in the short end term versus long term. And the Olympics next year, there's even some question marks on that as well, I've just heard. So, we keep on getting new information that keeps changing our plans and kind of disrupting our rhythm. And so I'm kind of just looking at the day-to-day and the things you need to get done daily, really. And, tick a couple of boxes during the week and you've actually moved forwards to a degree.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing that everyone can take away from that is trying to be focused on the process, isn't it? Rather than be focused on a race at some point in the future, because I think everybody from the very top level pros all the way down to age groupers has struggled with this idea that all of a sudden it's very possible that there's nothing on the calendar this year, as much as we, over here, we've got a few events on the calendar in September still that people are still sort of saying, well, I'm going to get in really good shape. And then if it happens, I can race there. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for you guys as pros, though, with the, like you say, the Olympics has been moved, but there's even question marks as to whether that'll happen next year. I noticed on your Instagram feed that you did give yourself a short-term goal fairly recently and decided to go out and, without much speed work in your legs, in your own words, you gave it a blast over 5 kilometers. And it was quite a surprisingly quick result, I thought.
Yeah, well, I kind of thought that I was the same. That evening, I kind of went and I thought, geez, I need to go and get a wheel. I need to go and get like a measuring wheel, and I'm going to walk around this course outside that we just ran around for myself to know 100% that it was exactly 5Ks. And we'd gone the day before. I looked on Google Maps and I Google mapped the 5 kilometer route out, and it happened to be 4.8. And I'm like, oh no. So I took another road wider. Then it was 4.9. And then I'm like, okay, well, we'll finish the loop round and we'll add 100 meters on the end. And that's going to be the 5K. And it was on Google. So the day before, we did a test run. We ran there with the watches. We had 2 different watches on as well. We ran round. We ran bang on 5Ks. Okay, cool. We know it's 5 kilometers. And the coach kind of gave it to us 2 weeks in advance. So I already knew 2 weeks in advance we were going to run this 5 kilometers. And my coach put a Corona 5K on my training peaks. And I thought, okay, cool, or whatever. And yeah, well, I'm not currently not with. I've changed running shoe sponsors anymore from any running shoe company. And this was kind of in lieu of the Olympic Games as well, to a degree. I can't really get too much depth there, but so yeah, I ran in different shoes that I normally run in, and also I'd done about 6 months of training, so I can't say I was unfit. I mean, I was quite fit. Just wasn't, completely high-end trained for something like that. So, I mean, I think my calf is not sore anymore, but it was sore for until about Sunday or Saturday, a little bit niggly. So I definitely went deep on the run. But yeah, I wanted to go under 14 minutes the last 5 years or so. I thought, I want to go 7 minutes.
And well, I've not given the game away yet, but how fast did you actually go? What was the time on the clock when you finished?
13:37.
13:37.
We ran more than 5K because I had Rachel's father in front of me on my e-bike in front of me. And we had like a crosswind at 20K an hour. So we're trying to say it's not going to be fast. I'm going to run into a block headwind for the last K. It's like kind of a cross headwind. And so luckily when I was running, he kind of sat to my left. So he kind of blocked the wind. So at least I didn't get any massive headwind at the last K, because I think I actually negative split the 5K. So I came in on 2:37 for the last K. And so I kind of built into the run in the last run. I think I did 4:14 part of the 5K. So I definitely progressed into it as well. And after we ran 5.08 kilometers or something, so I ran 80 meters long as well at the end.
Nice.
And I was, when are we going to stop? Because I knew where the finish was, and he just kept going. And I'm like, make it stop. And so he kept it was good. Some good fun here as well. And Rachel, I wanted to see how fast Rachel can go, but she didn't have her pacer was a little bit up the road from her. So it was like one of her friends came with a city bike and then was pacing Rachel. So Rachel definitely needs to have the same scenario. So a couple of weeks time, we might do the same thing to see if she can. I believe she can go under 16 minutes for her. And so we're going to see whether she can do that in a few weeks time.
Well, it's an amazing time in itself, isn't it? 13:37. Has that given you, let's put it in context, you broke the South African National Road 5K record. I mean, I know there's all kinds of official things that have got to be validated if it's going to actually count, but that's a quality performance, man. That's to give it some context. Faster than any South African pure runner has ever covered 5K on the road. So has that changed your perception of yourself as an athlete?
No. I knew I could run really fast. I grew up as a runner. So a lot of people, I got a lot of hate and a lot of people not believing that it's possible. And, people just don't know the triathlon world. So obviously runners don't know triathlon. And right. I think a lot of triathletes know the swimming world a bit, they know the biking world a bit, they know the running world, but runners don't really know a lot of triathletes apart from maybe the guy Jan Frodeno or something, or actually most runners probably don't know triathlon at all. They're not even interested in it. So I think, from that side, a lot of people don't think it's possible. And I thought people will think that it sounds, 2 months before I ran a 5K on the track and I did 14:17 on the track with spikes on.
Right.
So I ran 40 seconds slower So people that are in the running world will look at that and will say, oh, some people said, well, I'm doping, and like Christian Blumenfeld's doping, and it's not possible. And how can you do that on the track and then on the road during the pandemic? How can you run that fast? Because they think I'm in South Africa and not in the Netherlands. So I've been able to run outside every day. And
okay.
So I've been able to train. And so I grew up as a runner as well. I ran track and field. And I went to national champs for South Africa for 800 meters. I went for 1500 meters when I was a junior. So I come from a running background.
Sure. Let me ask you, I love talking to ex-runners because I'm an ex-runner myself. How fast were you over 1500 as a junior?
I did 3:57.
Wow.
When I was 14.
When you were 14?
Yeah. And I didn't make the final. I didn't make it through to the final. And after that, I quit running.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, I quit running. After that, I was second year in high school, and I did a 1:59 800 when I was also 14. And I was good, but the guys running, the level of running in South Africa is there's so many guys that can run fast.
Yeah,
they just never manage to get overseas to race, and they never have proper coaches, and so they kind of stay in the bubble of racing every weekend, making 10 pounds or 20 pounds on the weekend from doing a race, and then that's it. And so I did my first. I've still got my 5K record at my high school when I was 16 or 15. I ran a 15:03 5K on a grass track, barefoot.
Wow. Barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot on a grass track when I was
It gets better.
16. And so I had a message from someone's mother saying that their kid beat my 1500 meter at the high school on the field. And I said, man, that's amazing. So they keep updating me on how their kid's beating my records in the high school. So I said, please teach your kid to swim. And maybe like a world-class, he could become a world-class triathlete. But so, yeah, I kind of gave up the running when I didn't make the final, and I was a bit like, ran my PB of my life, and they ran 13:51 for boys under 15 on at South African Championships, and I didn't make the final. I thought like 1500, and then I think it was like 5 hours later or 4 hours later, we ran the final or something of the 1500. I'm like, how can you do 1500 meters like within a couple hours of each other? I thought that's pretty nasty. So I think the kids in the under 19s, I think they ran faster than under 19s that year. I remember they ran something like 8 for the boys under 18, and then boys under 15 ran 3:51 for the final, which is probably like a 4-minute mile.
Yeah, it's not far off, is it? Yeah, it's
not far 4-minute mile. And yeah, and some of the guys weren't even in shoes. I mean, some of the guys on the track, we ran barefoot on the track, which, yeah, I think more than an 800 on the track barefoot definitely wrecks your feet. Like that's.
Did you swim a lot as a kid as well? Did you grow up swim training?
No. So I grew up on a farm. So the closest pool was I had a couple of triathlons where I was the worst by far, like miles behind in the swim, because I never really, I hated swimming. I went to go and do it when I was like 12, 13. I started doing some swimming, but I really didn't enjoy it. And so I decided I'm just not going to do it. And I kind of shunned away from it until I was about 18, I would say, 18, 19. I wasn't swimming at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I literally was doing biking and running then, and I was national champion for mountain biking for 2 years as well, during the same era where I was also running track. And so I did downhill. I also did downhill mountain biking, and I raced motocross at the same time. So I was kind of doing like a bit of everything. I was doing like duathlon, odd triathlon, some motocross, mountain biking, downhill mountain biking, kind of that type of thing.
Yeah. And so what age were you when you realized, I know that you won the junior ITU Duathlon World Championships back in, I made some notes, it was 2007, 2008, something like that?
Yeah, I think 2007 was the first time I ran against Jonathan Alistair as well in Hungary. And yeah, managed to just take Alistair on the second run. And then was World Triathlon champion as a junior then.
And is that the point you started thinking I should probably do some miles in the pool and try and pick the swimming up a little bit?
Oh, well, it was duathlon. So I kind of I had a German coach. Well, not a German coach, but somebody who was mentoring me. But it was a German guy, and he had a triathlon a club in Germany.
Okay.
He told me, no, if I learn to swim, I can become a triathlete. And I thought, no, not thinking any of that. And he already told me that when I was about 15, and I was like, I don't want to hear any of that. And then eventually the year after that, I ended up actually going to Germany and spending like 3 months there. And did my first. So he said he's got a German team. I can do a triathlon racing for them. And I actually raced against Sebastian Kienle in a second division Bundesliga race.
Wow.
Got a picture racing against him in a second division Bundesliga race. And I was kind of like, wow, this is only the second division. And it's already bigger than our national champs and biggest triathlon in South Africa. And so I kind of thought, wow, this is way bigger than it is in Africa. And so my brain kind of started thinking, wow, this is, they've got like bank sponsors and the government sponsors things and there's big money behind it. I thought, well, maybe that's bigger than cycling, or maybe that's bigger than running,
Yeah.
So then I kind of thought, well, I've got to learn to swim then if I want to be a triathlete type of thing, And I went to World Champs in 2008 and I came last, like pretty much stone last out the water. I'd won the Triathlon World Champs, and then I pretty much got lapped on the bike in triathlon that year. So over the intercom, they're like, oh, it's a World Triathlon champion, junior, busy, almost getting lapped on the bike. And I was just like, oh, man, the signs are up. And yeah, that was in Vancouver in 2000 and, if I'm not mistaken, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. Was the coldest triathlon I've ever done in my entire life. Like 10 degrees, a 5-degree outdoor temperature with rain and stuff, and it was horrible. It was freezing. And so after that, I kind of realized, well, man, I've got to do something about my swimming if I want to become a triathlete.
Yeah.
And I was about 20. I think I was about 19 or 20 years old, something like that.
So it sounds like you've had a sort of a varied background coming. You've done the running, you've done the biking, you've done the mountain biking, you've done duathlon. Obviously, at the moment, Olympics is where the focus is. But I'm wondering whether, if the sort of not the insecurity, but the not knowing of whether the Olympics is going to happen next year, have you had a think about sort of moving up distances and the opportunities to race and make money at sort of half Ironman distance? Do you have any intention or hope of going and racing? Hope's the wrong word, but are you crazy enough to want to go and race over the Ironman distance, I guess is what I'm asking.
Not really. No, it's funny, but I've done one half distance race and I found it to be extremely boring, to tell the real truth.
Right. Okay.
And I'm wondering whether I want to train for something that I find boring. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a very good, not boring to the sense, but laborsome. It felt a bit laborsome compared to what I was used to. So it was almost like going from a 100-meter sprinter to becoming a marathon runner or a 10K runner. You would think Usain Bolt would find it kind of, this is not as exciting. It's not as close, the racing or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I did the first half distance race, I went wrong thing. I should have gone to South Africa or I should have gone to China or South America. They gone a half distance race, then won, and then thought, man, I can win a half Ironman race. But I did the Challenge Samoran race where there was like 30,000 euros prize money for first place. I thought, if I win a half Ironman, that seems like the one. And then I went there and there was like Sebastian Kienle and there was Lionel Sanders and Addy Brownlee and Rayleigh brothers and you name it. It was like there's world champions on my first half distance race, and I was like 2 months. Okay, cool. Let me just whack on this TT bike for 2 months, and I go there and I'm just gonna ring it up.
So you didn't make life easy for yourself in your debut, then, did you? Really? Couldn't have really picked a deeper cut.
I got such a hiding on the bike. We got on the bike and I was like 350 watts. I'm like, this is where it's at 350. And then I had like line of sight come past me like I was looking for like a parking spot. And I went like, how is this even possible? Like, was he doing like over 400 watts or something? And I think I came 5th odd or something like that. And I had this dream of running 105 off the bike. So I wanted to run like a 105 half marathon off the bike. And I was training for like a 105 off the bike. Okay, cool. I can do this. I can run 310s until the cows come home. That's cool, you know. Didn't realize when I came off the bike, I could barely walk, let alone run. But I got off and I felt like I've been riding a horse across South America. But yeah, no, it was quite a day. But you know, and then we couldn't run. I almost couldn't walk for like a week after that. I was like, my legs were shot.
Yeah,
it was very different. There was a lot of preparation. I mean, you got to train a long time for it. But I probably will do 1 or 2 half distance races in the years coming up. Probably choose ones, maybe do like the South African champs or, you know, the ones in South Africa type of thing as well when I'm there at the start of the season, because we always happen to be there. And so I'll probably will do 1 or 2 half distance races. Full Ironman, not sure. I'm looking towards probably going into coaching further down the line. So, you know, I've got to try and put try and be a professional Ironman athlete and coach at the same time is not going to work. You just don't have time for that. So I'm going to kind of have a look to see where the mind's at and what I want to do, because I'd rather be doing something I want to than something that I should be doing. I think a lot of athletes go and do things that is expected of them, whereas you don't have to do that. You know, if you want to become an architect or you want to row across to America or whatever or something, you know, you must go and do those things that you want to do. I find that that's kind of important.
Yeah. Well, would you be tempted into racing at this Challenge Daytona big money race at the end of the year? I don't know what distance that's over, but the PTO are sort of obviously come in with a crash this year. Is that something that tempts you towards maybe giving that a try at the end of this year?
Yeah, well, I did kind of look at that. I'm not sure whether it'll help towards my Olympic preparation or not, really. Probably not. There's some good prize money. I mean, there's a lot of talk about great money being out there and stuff, and a lot of talk so far. Haven't seen all that much action, really. It's still the honest truth. It's mainly Ironman focused athletes, so the short course athletes just got quite a backhand, which is quite weird because there's all inclusive. We're trying to look after all the triathletes, but then short course athletes don't even get don't get anything. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but it might be something we'll look into. We're trying to get you have to actually be part of the PTO series to actually race it. So you can't just go and race the series. You actually got to sign contracts and you've got to be part of the whole deal. So it's quite different compared to normal racing where athletes come in and just race. Here you have to be part of the organization to actually race the race. Yeah. It's a different take. It'll be interesting because the Daytona one did always look, the last few years, there's always been something interesting about the Daytona Challenge race. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe there aren't that many. A lot of people actually. Perhaps we'll look into that at the end of the year, maybe.
Well, one series of races that definitely does have money and really plays to your strengths with the sort of fast, furious competition head-to-head angle is the Super League Tri series that I got to see you racing out in Malta last year. That's almost at the opposite end of it, isn't it? That's fast, furious, races are over in 20 minutes. Is that something that you've enjoyed doing?
Definitely. Yeah, the Super League's been very interactive, very short and high-paced. They've been doing good promotion of it as well. So a lot of people actually come into watching triathlon being Super League. I think they've definitely gone about it the right way. I mean, this year's quite difficult. So they're obviously an up-and-coming event organizing. This year pretty much is not going to exist in the sports world. To tell the truth, it'll be like 2020 didn't exist really, and then hopefully things will come better and the event starting. But I think with the company starting out, this is a very difficult time for everyone because there's not much you can do with it. But it's definitely the racing has been really exciting. They've been building very quickly. They're looking after the athletes quite well. And so definitely from that side, I think it's definitely, I wouldn't say the future, but if you compare how many people know Usain Bolt to how many people know Eliud Kipchoge, more people know Usain Bolt. So that's kind of the thing where you look into it. Same with Alistair Brownlee. A lot of people know Alistair Brownlee because he's the Olympic champion. Obviously, Jan Frodeno was Olympic champion as well. And he's kind of got the best of both. You went by Olympics and Kona. You've gotten your whole spread.
So final question then, when you look forward to the Olympics and as you're getting up in the morning, lacing up your running shoes, who is it that you imagine in your head racing down the home straight against? Who do you see as your main rivals and your main inspiration to get the running shoes on every morning?
Well, kind of to get my inspiration, I generally enjoy training, so I don't try and think of beating others, really, to tell the real truth. I try and be as good as I can with what I have every day. And if it's not great that day, then it's not great. If it's good that day, then I go all out. But I think the guys to look up are obviously the Brownlees are renowned for, winning the Olympics and being in control of Olympics to ITU degree perspective in the male side. But Mario Mola and Vincent Louis, also the Norwegians are kind of a force to be reckoned with as well. So I think those would kind of be my picks, but kind of generally focus on what I need to do daily instead of what my competitors are doing.
Nice. I like that you're driven and motivated by how well you can go. You seem to really enjoy the training, and it's almost a process of seeing how fast you can get as a process of enjoying the training rather than, being driven to beat a competitor. And that seems a pretty good grounded place to train and race from.
Yeah, no, I think it's a health. The thing is, you can't always win. So if you have a great performance, but you don't happen to beat who you want to beat, you'll probably be negative about it. But if you've done everything you can with the situation, you can only but be happy with the situation. I think wouldn't say similar to what's going on now with the corona a little bit, but there's a lot of general built up frustration. And if you can kind of change that frustration to doing something else you enjoy, it kind of makes it a bit easier to swallow, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. And I think that's a really good place to leave it, man. That's a great interview. Thank you very much for your time. No,
perfect.
A cracking interview with Richard there. Like I said, I think he's a really good guy. I really got on with him when I met him after Super League Malta. And it's brilliant to see how his fitness has come on, and he's sort of really surprised himself. And I think that underlines to everybody else listening as well. He wasn't expecting to run 13:37 on a flat out 5K. He was thinking he was going to run somewhere in the mid 14s. So sometimes our bodies respond differently to a changing training load. He's obviously really fresh at the moment and just absolutely blasted it. So who knows, if you get yourself into shape and you're feeling good and you fancy going out and giving it a bit of a blast on one of your local routes, get yourself a 5K measured out and see how you go as well. That pretty much brings us to the end of the show. I hope you've enjoyed that, everybody. There's some discount codes here for you to finish rounding up the show. You can use OxygenAddict 15 at precisionhydration.com. That gets you 15% off your first electrolyte order. You can use OxygenAddict 10 at thriver.co for 10% off all your home blood test subscriptions. Remember, they've also got the coronavirus antibody tests you can pick up there as well. So why not get yourself some extra blood tests done at the time as you're picking one of those up. And teamoxygenaddict.com. If you sign up for a year's coaching anytime in May, we're going to extend your coaching to the end of September 2021 on an annual membership, so you effectively get 2 race seasons for the price of one. That offer is going to go away at the end of May, though we can't offer it as an unlimited thing, so get in before the end of May. Remember, there's links in the show notes for all of these sponsors, so you don't have to remember them. And until next week, I've got an interview next week with Rachel Klammer, who is one of the superstars of the ITU circuit and of Super League, and also married Richard Murray about 2 months ago. So they are now husband and wife. So I managed to get 2 interviews lined up for the price of one, essentially. So really fun conversation with her. She's a great athlete. She's had some top 3, top 4 results at the ITU over the last year. So I think she's coming into peak form. And although you might not think she's one of the biggest names you've ever heard of at the moment, I think that when the Tokyo Olympics actually happen, you're going to see her up there on the podium. So we've got the interview there. So you've heard it all here first. All right, everybody. Until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.